Kia ora and welcome back to the Navigating Breath podcast with your host, myself, John Van Hunen, where we explore the complexities of the inner world. In this episode, got my cacao here. This particular blend is the wahine blend, which is the feminine blend. Wahine is the Maori word for woman. And this blend is infused with raspberries and rose and lots of other delicious goodies. And the cacao itself is from Papua New Guinea, from the Pacific Islands. So as I sit here and contemplate what has been alive for me or what's been going on for me in the last week or so, it's been a big one. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is yesterday myself and Libby guided our first group breathwork session together. So we're both breathwork facilitators. Bringing both of our talents together and forming one collective. It was really powerful and really beautiful. I'm really grateful for that experience. And it was interesting to see a few of the very common themes that were arising during that session. One of those was community. And, so often on this journey speaking from personal experience, right, we go down this route and all of a sudden the things that we used to deem important, as we go down our spiritual journey or our journey of understanding ourselves better, if that feels more comfortable or more accurate. We step down this journey and all of a sudden the things that we used to think important are no longer that important. And we're left asking ourselves, who am I and what is it that I want? And often when we're in that space, it can be quite hard to find a community because we are still learning to navigate who we are as a person to help to dictate who we want to attract into our lives. And I can say from my personal experience, when I first really stepped into this work, going on in a journey when I discovered that things weren't fulfilling me in ways that I hoped they would, that when I started to let those things go, I found myself quite alone in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of us who are on this journey go through that. And I'm just thinking, personal experience. The example that I gave yesterday was I used to be a massive coffee snob, and that was a huge part of my identity. There's a coffee brand in New Zealand who are quite well known, and I used to wear their apparel and pretty much only go to coffee stores that had their coffee at them. And if the coffee wasn't good enough at wherever I was going, I'd often just not refuse to drink it or go get myself another one from somewhere else. And when I realized that coffee was no longer beneficial for me, wasn't causing me, it was escalating some health issues that I was having, and I realized that I needed to let it go. Well, then I was no longer that coffee guy. And where did I sit in the world when I couldn't identify it as that? And I found the same when I stepped out of the building world. I still do it occasionally, but it's no longer part of my identity. And I think that one in particular had a lot of my masculine identity wrapped around it as well, right? Because it's the, just get stuck and work on the tools. And in a society which applauds productivity or the art of doing. um, yeah, being a builder was a very comfortable place to be in that, because you're always busy doing things, and yeah, it's very easy to fit in the world when you're doing a role like that. So then when I started to move away from those sorts of things, and especially as I started my business, things weren't so busy, and I couldn't lean on that. When people would ask me, what have you been up to, there wasn't that level of busyness or productivity in ways that were quantifiable so easily. And that was really challenging. And yeah, I guess my point is that as I kind of stepped both out of those two examples, the people that I was associating with, I felt like I had less in common with. And not all, but some of us drifted apart. And then I have to make room for myself, and finding out what it is that I truly desire. And that can be quite a lonely journey. But the opposite of that, or the thing that I discovered later in the piece, is that the more I discovered who I was and what was important to me, things that really mattered, as I stopped identifying so much with the social constructs of who I should be, or felt like I had to be, I discovered more people that were in alignment with me, and began to build a community based on a new level of authenticity that I hadn't experienced before. I remember when I first started social media, my account was about coffee, and then it was about cycling, and all these things that at the time I really found beneficial. But yeah, as my relationship to myself changed, I had to find new ways of being. And yeah, so it was really beautiful yesterday to see that, yeah, we are forming a community through these practices, and that the community of people who are feeling the call to explore their inner worlds is growing. And it's really beautiful to be part of that. And the other really common theme that we saw yesterday was the art of people pleasing. And in a trauma response, we have the fight, flight, freeze, but the lesser known one is fawning. And that is where you people please in order to stay safe, essentially. And it's very common in women. But when I look back at my life, I found myself doing it in relationships. Actually, is when I think I was doing it the most. And I guess it comes back to that, desire to be loved, and the best way to do that is to make sure the other person is always happy. And that can be much to our detriment if we're not conscious of what we're doing. But yeah, it can look like, like I said, most commonly people pleasing. So if someone else is unhappy, then we go into like a fawning. Like imagine like a deer, like a baby deer, right? It needs its mother, so it does all it can to have that love to make sure that it stays alive. And on a basic human level, that's what we're doing when we're in that fawn response. We're shrinking ourselves down and giving all our energy away to someone else to make sure that we can avoid any conflict or confrontation. But yeah, we need to move past that, because yeah, it's time to step into our world where we fully celebrate ourselves and our unique gifts, and we do have these challenging conversations when they need to happen, when they arise. So there was a lot of big growth in that session yesterday around that. And yeah, I guess the final example that came through yesterday was joy. And when we asked people to raise their hands, out of the whole group, there was only a tiny percentage of individuals that could say that they'd felt joy, true joy, recently. And yeah, that's a tough one to see in this world, right? Because essentially, to a certain extent, that's why we're here, to experience all of life's emotions, ups and downs. But if you're not really experiencing the ups, then it can make the downs, far more challenging. But I guess, it's maybe there's avoidance there. I'm just thinking of myself, before I started to do more of the deeper work, I was kind of plateauing. I was not really feeling heaps of joy, but I wasn't really feeling heaps of sadness. But when I was really able to go down into those deep places, then the joy was greater as well, and it kind of takes you out of that flat line to like create like a heartbeat, or a whatever you want to call it, where you are experiencing life to its fullest capacity. So then I was reflecting on my own experiences around joy. And then today we were actually, discussing joy within uh, myself and Libby's relationship and what that looks like. And, because often as facilitators we end up working with things that are things that can be important for us to look at ourselves in as well, right? That's why we're here to do this work. And yeah, there's definitely been elements where both of us have been feeling like, even though there is an abundance of love in the relationship, is there, where does joy sit in there, in that? And yeah, both feeling that when we strip away from the relationship, just personally, like, where are we experiencing joy? And for me, it's about riding my bike. It's about, I love to support people and do those sorts of things, but on a day-to-day practice, where am I inviting in joy? And it's something that I'm really going to have to sit with and explore, because it's so important. And I found that often when I am in that joyous state, no matter whatever it may be that I'm doing, things definitely seem to flow easier in my life. But I guess there's still, coming back to full circle, back to that part of my ego that identifies with having to work hard in order to create things. There doesn't feel like there's space for joy sometimes. And so I'm really going to endeavor to allow myself more time to experience joy, and allow that to bleed into other aspects of my world, like my relationship and work, and try to live from a more joyous place, because otherwise, what else is there? This journey isn't for the faint of heart, but it can be really beautiful. But it's just about us, taking the darkness lightly, I guess. That's what comes to mind. So I'd be interested to know how everyone else is doing at the moment. How do you experience joy in your daily life? It'd be really interesting to hear about that. For me, like I said, it's about riding my bike. It's about getting into cold water. Dancing is another way that I really love to experience joy. Drinking cacao, having deep conversations. But just expanding on that, there must be more, right? The little things, I guess. the sunrises, the stars. One of my favourite things is on bin day going out and taking the bins out and looking at the stars as I walk down to the curb. But anyway, if this was of benefit to you, or if you just like to, yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to like or subscribe or share this with someone else who you feel may benefit from it. At the end of the day, I'm just here to share my experiences and hope that they may be of some benefit to someone else, if not just my own benefit, to allow myself to express what's going on with me so that I may better understand what's going on in my head. But yeah, thank you, and wishing you a beautiful week ahead.